Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. We're here, the Final Word Show. I'm here with Joe from Irish Abroad and Eddie, who runs the Irish Soccer Shirts Twitter account. You're on Instagram as well, but Eddie's known for making this book. It was around, I don't know, last year, was it?
Just
or 2 years?
the end of 2017.
Yeah, and it's a book basically dedicated to James Nolan, who passed away in Euro 2012 in Poland, wasn't it?
2012, yeah.
But you have a museum dedicated to all the Irish shirts in memory of him.
Yes.
And you've brought some of your shirts here today and joined us.
Yeah, thanks very much. Brought a couple, one with Switzerland in mind. There's Kevin Sheedy's one from Switzerland in 1985, and Ray Houghton from World Cup 94, and this would have been Niall Quinn's one from Belfast in 1993. So some away shirts with a big away game coming up.
Yeah, and a nice retro feeling to it. Remind us of some good times.
Yes.
And in a way, we could be coming to good times, but we'll leave that for the preview show. This Georgia game, then, I suppose we'll start off with the lineup. I don't think it was much of a shock. Myself and Gary Spain sat down here last week and we basically predicted the lineup. I thought it was pretty much straightforward. He was giving hints all week that Doherty was going to play left back. Collins was pretty much going to come in up front. He's sort of like for like. I know McGoldrick's better, but I mean, other than that, I mean, you had Randolph, Coleman, Duffy, Egan, who I thought was brilliant. Matt Doherty at left back. Then you had McLean at left wing. Then you had Hourihan, Whelan, and Hendrick in midfield as expected. Robinson at right as expected as well. I think, and Collins obviously I've mentioned, but was there any shock for you guys with that? As I said, we predicted it and we thought that was
No,
pretty
I
straightforward.
don't. I think Mick is, as you said, he's been fairly honest and upfront. But I think as well, he likes a certain type of team. I think he only has 8 games. To get it right, I don't think you're going to get experimentation as much as fans were screaming out for Connolly to start. I think probably his own experience will tell him that he's got a shape, he's got a system that he wants to work in. So I think, as you said, I don't think there was any surprises in how he went and how he set up against Georgia. I thought some of the players that came in, there was a few individual performances that weren't great, and I think that's maybe where we'll probably get into it a bit more rather than say the shape or how the team was actually set up. But there was no surprises.
John, how did you feel?
Yeah, like you said, I felt the lineup was as predicted. I think without McGoldrick, we were missing that target man, and Collins in the last game in the friendly against Bulgaria came on and scored. So he probably, you could say, he earned his shot. He scored, I think, 5 goals for Luton this season, so he's in good form. And he does look like a natural target man. He's a big, strong striker. You think that when the ball goes up, it'll stick with him. So that was the striker, the front man picked. Obviously, Andy Stevens being suspended meant we had to pick a new left full. Doherty, he'll admit himself that it's not his favourite position, but he did play a season there for Wolves, and he won Player of the Season that was playing at left full. So, it shouldn't have been a great stretch for him to play there. With Doherty and McLean then starting at left wing, it kind of reminded me a little bit of when we used to select Hart at left full and Kilban at left wing, because between the two of them they kind of cancelled out each other's deficiencies in each position. Yeah. Hart obviously was a great going forward, and Kilban had a slightly more defensive mindset than, say, Damien Duff might have had at the time. I felt with McLean at left wing, obviously he's very experienced in that position. Doherty obviously doesn't have many international caps, and obviously that was his first time starting at left full, so he had an experienced pair of hands playing in front of him. On the other side then, I liked what I had seen of Coleman and Robinson playing together on that right wing, on that partnership. And I think that the 3 midfield players, 3 solid midfield players with a lot of experience at that level. Obviously, Glenn Whelan would have the most. Hourihan is coming to form right at the right time for us. And both him and Hendrick had scored last week in the Premier League. So I felt that that selection was fairly straightforward. Duffy, once he was declared fit, is always going to start. He started every game he's ever played for Ireland, and I think he's completed 90 minutes in every one as well. And then obviously now with Richard Keogh being out for the foreseeable future, John Egan has been, he's taken to the Premier League like a duck to water really for for Sheffield United. For me, he was the man of the match. Randolph is look, he's our number one keeper, and in competitive games for the foreseeable future, he is going to start. He didn't have a shot on target to save throughout the game, but he's a reliable keeper at number for us, and I think he will be for the next game on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I think I said it actually in the Starting 11 show. It's just like I think his experience is invaluable at times. I do find he's very calming. You've played in teams yourselves where you have a keeper who's a little bit dodgy, and it spreads unrest in the team. But I thought back forward sorted up. Maybe not so much Doherty, but we'll come to that.
I thought just what you're saying on Egan, I thought he was man of the match as well. But I thought we would have missed Keogh, his leadership, and he seems to have a good partnership, and he's very experienced, and you're going away from home, and I thought Egan stepped up really well, not just his kind of personality on the pitch, but he really seemed like he was really comfortable there. He didn't look
it seemed like he belonged there.
Didn't look phased, and I think that we'll get on to other things, but on the positive points of view, I thought he was really solid.
Well, the partnership too.
Yeah, and he's coming from playing regularly in a back three for Sheffield United to playing in a back four, and didn't seem to phase him. Just went out and played his regular game.
Yeah, and I think that was important as well, that partnership, because I think people wanted to see that for a long time, and now the fact that it's they've played a game together, they seem to like playing with each other. They, as you said about or was it you, Kilban and Ian Hart cancelling out each other. I think Egan's good on the ball, Duffy's not. Duffy will win more headers, but Egan can still win headers, and he can still put himself about. And I suppose that brings us to the first point: is he hits the post with a header within the first couple of minutes, and if that goes in, we're sitting here, in such a good mood, because, well, there is the case that when Shane Duffy scored in Tbilisi before and we sat back, there is that case as well. I get that, but I mean, other than that, we just very flat in every shape of imagination. There was just not a lot going on.
Funny, as you said, if that one goes in, I don't know, what was that, 7 or 8? If that goes in early,
I think it was the third
minute.
It was early.
If that goes in early, players calm a bit. Maybe in Mick's mindset, talking about Connolly coming on, different gravy if we're 1-0 up, 65th, 75th minute, he comes on, Georgia are going to push forward, and then you've got the legs to get in behind him. And I think just and on the few notes, I mean, I know you'd be more of a stats man, but it's a funny one to be sitting here talking about the point against Georgia, and there is some sort of a feeling of people being downbeat. It's almost like, I was looking at Twitter today, you almost got the vibe that we were out of the thing.
Or we got beaten.
Or we got beaten. And yeah, Georgia are 91st or 93rd in the world. But when you look back in our history, and I know with the museum, the website, I probably go back a little bit more than people do and look at campaigns and games and stuff. In total, we've had 5 away games to Georgia. We've won 3, drawn 2, and in each occasion we've only ever won by 1 goal. So we never go to Tbilisi and score 3s and 4s. It was always going to be a 1-0.
Yeah, well, even Duff said on the panel beforehand, and Kevin Doyle on RTE, that it was going to be tough going there regardless.
Yeah, and
before the game,
one of the things today, the feedback on Twitter and even the newspapers and stuff today is it's a negative thing. I know people are really disappointed with the performance, but we're still right in there. And a bit of context, Denmark went there and drew 0-0. Now, again, you can't look at somebody else's teams. Well, there's always difficult places to go to in any qualifying campaign. And I'm sure for Mick McCarthy, people were talking about maybe his reticence to bring or change something. 20 years ago, Stavreski scored a header for Macedonia in the 91st minute or whatever it was.
We've all seen the T-shirt.
And so, you want to go there and you want to win and you want to get the point, but we absolutely couldn't afford to be sucker punched at the end. So I think his comment when he was talking about having maybe the physicalness there from corners, I think that's a direct hark back to going, no, I'm not getting sucker punched.
Yeah.
I'll take a draw, but I'm not losing 1-0 with an
Yeah,
89th minute header.
but I can see fans' frustration for wanting to bring Connolly on. I, for one, wanted to see him on a lot earlier. I thought around 60-minute mark, there was not a lot going on. They were very, very poor shooting-wise.
Yes.
I mean, whether that's our defence, kept them at bay quite well. I mean, our defence, I thought, were solid. Maybe other than Doherty, I thought he got caught in his heels a couple of times in behind. I do think that Enda Stevens should come back in for the game against Switzerland. So, yeah. Whether you can find a place for Matt Doherty, maybe in place of Callum Robinson, because I don't know, maybe I'm being negative, but I just don't see what he offers the team. He wasn't. Maybe you can blame the surface, I don't know, but he looked lost for ideas, and every time he got the ball, he just ran into
It's
a
funny
dark
we
hole.
talk about players who have come into this squad this year and this team, and McGoldrick was a huge loss.
Big time.
For literally pulling us up the pitch. So
Yeah.
the ball would go up, he holds it up, he allows the Hendricks, the Horahans to get up behind it, the McLeans to get up. It just wasn't sticking at all.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a. I've seen a lot of people saying that Collins was brutal. I don't think he was brutal. I think he was just isolated.
No, he was, and it's a specialist, position to do it as well. It's a lonely task. It's not very glamorous. But McGoldrick, in the role that Mick has wanted him to play, in the way we've been playing, has done it brilliantly. And it's very difficult then to go and just go, okay, we got another target man up there.
Yeah.
He'll hold on to the ball and bring it up. It's a skill, and it's a skill.
Yeah,
in
I think
itself.
it helps though as well because McCarthy obviously had him at club level for so
Yeah, no,
long
no,
as
and
well,
he-
so he
and
would
and he can
have
see
kind of
it.
moulded him
Yeah, yeah.
into that
Yeah,
type
yeah.
of player.
Yeah.
Whereas Collins obviously is only learning it kind of as he goes, and he's obviously only played the one game, and he didn't even start that game. He came on as a sub, so. But as I say, and you said Joe as well, he earned his spot by scoring the goal against Bulgaria, and I was calling for him to start the game because he was the only one with a goal to his name going into that game. So psychologically, he's already broken his duck. Whereas you look at Scott Hogan, Sean Maguire, and Connolly, they hadn't scored, So I did think it was the perfect game to bring Connolly on, and obviously he came on. But I mean, just the match facts we have here. So, the ball possession for Georgia had more with 54%. We had 46. They had 14 attempts on goal. We had 7. 0 of their attempts were on target. 3 of ours were, but the last 2 of them was Connolly and then Duffy at the very, very end, the header. They had 5 corners. We had 3. They had 507 passes. We had 382. They completed 403, and we completed 292. The chances of note, Egan obviously earlier on. There was actually, I know I slated Robinson there, but he did one good thing probably throughout the game, is that whipped ball in, and McLean probably should have taken a gamble.
I think what McCarthy likes about Robinson is when he kind of cuts in. He looks like he has a pass about him as well.
Yeah.
So he's athletic.
Yeah.
He's got legs. He can hold the ball up, but he does when he comes inside. I think McCarthy thinks he's a clever player, that he can, unlock it. Defence. He tried it. He was coming across goal a lot. It wasn't working for him.
I think maybe a thing that could be an experiment in the future. And I know we can't really experiment right now, but he might have him playing off the left and cutting in on his right foot, which would, I think, would be a better idea.
I think where up front struggled was that, unfortunately, a few times Hendrick and Horahan, their first touch or their ball retention, they gave the ball away cheaply.
I think
And
from
under,
kickoff,
yeah,
kickoff
from under
Hendrick-
no real pressure. So when you're playing a better side, and they're tracking, they're really pressing you, it can be difficult. There's a few times there, I think, where a lot of the fans would have felt, I don't know, frustrated. Was just, it's one thing to give the ball away cheaply when you're under pressure. But I thought we gave the ball away sloppily under little pressure, and then that does the front man.
Yeah, well, I
No
thought we were
service.
panicking a lot. Like, I remember looking at times and Hourahan and McLean were giving out to each other because Hourahan was playing balls and McLean was arguing that he should have played it there and stuff, instead of just getting on with it. Again, McLean earned a spot for that game with the ending to the game against Switzerland. I felt he earned a spot at left wing, but he's not, pretty sure he wasn't in the squad for Stoke last week. And then you had Connolly, who's, I know it's not really a game for starters, okay, but against, I know his argument will be against Switzerland that McLean tracks back, but he's not offering anything in the final third, and for me, goals win games. So
You spoke about the combination, and one of the glaring things I thought when you talk about when things are going well, Horahan pushes forward, Hendrick holds back naturally, they're in sync almost. Doherty and McLean didn't look in sync.
Yeah.
They were comfortable.
At
I
all.
think a lot of that goes down to, again, look, it was Doherty's first time playing at left wing. At left full. I mean, if Stevens comes back on Tuesday night, himself and McLean are an established partnership on that left wing. So, will that improve McLean's performance?
But that's actually a very good point. Sorry.
And I felt on the other wing as well. Robinson, he's not strictly speaking a right winger, and he's not really a forward. He's kind of that old style inside right. And what I would like to see is him tucking in a little bit and allowing Coleman to play on the overlap. And they just seem to get in each other's way a lot. I mean, I did like what I saw in the partnership. I think against Gibraltar, when I thought Robinson at home was absolutely brilliant. And he seemed to be playing in a style that we hadn't really seen before. I think I mentioned at the time that Jonathan Walters had kind of been shunted out there, where he wasn't really that natural. He was a natural forward, natural striker. And with Robinson, that seemed to be his ideal position. And he hasn't really settled into it yet. But again, the alternatives weren't really obvious. You looked at the bench and you kind of thought there isn't really many who can play that kind of role. And even when he went off, I think it was Hendrick was pushed out to the right, instead. So I think he will start against Switzerland on Tuesday, but I think if a better option was available, he wouldn't.
I thought Coleman was a bit within himself.
He didn't seem himself. I think he was just cagey.
And obviously at club and country, he's a great defender and he's a leader. But one of the things that we would have loved and seen about in the last couple of years is, in the last third of the field, is getting up, taking on the players.
Do you remember the goal he scored?
No, getting the 1-2 and going around it. One of the first games in a long time where I kind of thought, is he purposely hanging? Is that the mindset? Say, listen, we're away from home. Let's be. I don't know if cagey is the right word, but he certainly seemed to be. I don't know, inhibited. Maybe is that the right? I don't know.
I think it goes back to what you said earlier about Macedonia. That's probably going to be playing more on the manager's mind than the players. And again, like you said, we didn't want to get caught with a last minute corner. We probably didn't want to get caught pushing forward. Doherty, again, I don't want to keep bringing him up, but it was his first game at left full at international level. So was Coleman hanging back to cover for him to make sure that if there was space on the left, there was no space on the right?
And I suppose, as you said, with
compensation.
combinations
exactly.
and partnerships, in a Stevens, Duffy, Keogh, Coleman, Randolph, goalkeeper, back four, they seem to be very comfortable. They know, and like you said, even if you're playing Sunday football, that familiarity, that thing of going, no, I know if he gets in that position, he won't be stuck where maybe Coleman's thinking, I need to be a little bit more defensive here today. Maybe that was an instruction from the manager.
There was two new players in that back four. Obviously, and I don't think Doherty will play left back again, unless something happens to Stevens. I think Stevens will slot straight back in for the Swiss game, and that will leave three of our normal back four, or back five if you include Darren Randolph in that. So that's good with that familiarity. I do think Egan will slot in perfectly, and he's got the right attitude and stuff like that. We just have to make sure that touch wood, nothing happens to any of the back four in that game, because
Duffy coming back was huge.
The two of them were brilliant.
As good and all as Egan would be, and Long, I think for a game of that magnitude, there certainly would have been concerns then if you had Doherty left back for his first cap, Egan and Long with their first competitive starts. There would have been a.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I was watching the game. I was like, Jesus, if we hadn't Shane Duffy in there, I'd actually be very worried. He's been our best player, I think, for the last 2 years.
Yeah, he's definitely been the most consistent. I mean, not at both ends of the pitch. He's a goal threat, from corners and free kicks, and at the other end, he heads clear everything that comes his way. He seems to be slipping a little bit for club, but I think maybe Potter wants to play a slightly different way for Brighton. But I can't see him staying out of that team for long.
There was talks of he had a row with the manager. I think that's been resolved since, so I think that was the issue there. I mean, the thing about Duffy as well is, you look at Connolly, at club level, the two of them are very close as well. I think he'll be a perfect person to help Connolly on his development and stuff like that. The fact that he's playing with Oran and Brighton is brilliant as well, because they seem to be good mates off the field as well. I think he's like that with Malumbi as well. I know he's at Millwall now, but he has been at Brighton. So I do think that Duffy is a very crucial player, and he was ruled out a couple of weeks ago, and there he is turning up and playing, and probably with Egan equally man of the match.
Yeah, I think we have to say, and I think you probably acknowledged it, but sometimes you hear about club versus country and things like that. By all accounts, Brighton pulled out all the stops to get him fit.
Much respect to them.
And we hear about different things, clubs not wanting to let their players go and this, that. By all accounts, they did facilitate and try and get him medically tip top to get out there. So I mean, we should be saying thanks to Brighton for that.
And the thing is, going forward, we've so many players there now. You say Malumbi and Connolly, who look like they're going to be future stars at the moment, then potentially. Not to put too much pressure on them. Then you have James Furlong, who just moved from Shamrock Rovers over there. So there is a good contingent of Irish, and Warren O'Hara is there as well. There's a good few. I can't really think off the top of my head, but I think it is crucial to have that good relationship going forward. And as I say, I just think Shane Duffy, since he's came in at the Euros, he's just been brilliant. And although we haven't been scoring goals at the opposite end, he's been keeping them out himself. And Darren Randolph are probably up there as our two best players in my eyes. Whether that's a negative way of looking at it, that our defender, centre back, and goalkeeper are our best players, I don't know. But I just think that
I don't think it's any, coming from a centre half and Mick McCarthy, I don't think it's any surprise that he wants a solid defensive thing. And I suppose we'll get onto it later on about when Stephen Kenny comes in. There's a real desire, I suppose, in Irish football fans to see a different maybe way of playing and a different style of playing. But the last couple of managers have always set out for us to be defensively difficult to break down, especially when we go away from home, and goals will always be our,
Well, historically we've always struggled to score, especially away from home. So, if you're not going to score, make sure you don't concede.
Yeah.
I mean, that's George Graham won a title with Arsenal doing that. So, it's unfortunate, and I know we all want to see the next crop of strikers and attacking midfielders come through now, but they're not ready yet. They will be possibly in 12 months' time, as you say, when Stephen Kenny takes over, and we could see a whole different setup and approach to games from Ireland when that happens. But now in the team that we have, in the squad that we have, I can see why they would focus on defensive solidity ahead of possibly creating chances or finishing.
But historically, even if, and I mentioned about going back, I just jotted down a few things about how important sort of one goal can be, even in recent history since the book started. Brady against Brazil, 1-0. Lawrenson versus Scotland, 1-0. Houghton versus England, 1-0. Whelan versus Russia, 1-1. Sheedy versus England, 1-1. Quinn Holland, 1-1. McLaughlin Northern Ireland, 1-1. Houghton Italy, 1-0. McAteer Holland, 1-0. Holland Cameroon, 1-1. Keane Germany, 1-1. Keane Spain, 1-1. O'Shea Germany, 1-1. Long Germany, 1-0. Houlihan versus Sweden, 1-0. McLean Wales, 1-0. Brady versus Italy. Duffy Denmark, 1-1. Goldrick versus Switzerland, 1-0. There's I don't know where Irish fans have gotten this perception of us either always scoring goals or that we've loads of goals in us. But it's always been tight. Our best moments have been the 1-0s, the 1-1s historically.
Smash and grabs.
And we want new young strikers coming through. We want attacking midfielders. We want a different style of play. And the key thing for Stephen Kenny going forward in the next group of players is, will Ireland be in a position where we're going to Georgia in a group and winning 3-1? That's where we're going to go to.
Do you think that? Well, the reason I get that perception is that we should be brilliant is because I find a lot of Irish fans follow the likes of Liverpool, follow the likes of Man United when they've been good. Maybe Man City now, maybe Chelsea, Arsenal, teams that are used to winning things and have the absolute cream of the crop, and they see them passing the ball and they maybe make it look so easy that they think, why can't their players do it? And ultimately that's what I think it comes down to. Now, I know our limitations. As being an Everton fan, I know expecting limitations and expectations aren't that high. In my view, I'd be happy for us to go out and win 1-0, and if it's sloppy, so be it. Once it's a win, I don't care. Whereas other people would like to see this glamour of football. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way I see the perception of it. I don't know whether you think that's a good point or not. But
I'm a international football can be fickle. You'll play obviously home and away, different times of the year, different pitches, artificial pitches, different time zones, players in and out of form, injured, not a lot of continuity maybe between team selections, and I don't think it's any surprise that a lot of managers, McCarthy, O'Neill, Trapattoni, the last number have sort of had a way they played, and they just want the players to slot into that. And the times they had with the squad, they just worked rigidly on that formation and that thing. And hopefully the basis then of Kenny coming through would be that if he wants to change the style of play, which I think everyone's open to see, that there is this continuity of youth coming through. But senior international football is a totally different gravy to under 21 football. The philosophy is right, the ideas will be right, but ultimately for Kenny going forward, he'll be judged on the same metric as everyone else, which will be results, and it'll be nice to play nice football. But we're unbeaten so far in the campaign. We could win on Tuesday night and qualify automatically for the Euros. I think we've topped the group once, did we? Qualified automatically twice, and the rest have been playoffs. So for all the negativity that's hanging around after the Georgia game, the potential on Tuesday night for a really, really fine achievement in Irish football is within our grasp.
Yeah, it's a cup final, pretty much.
It's incredible, and to hear the level of negativity about the Georgian performance is right, but it's points on the board, points win prizes. There's always an up and a down. There's always a late twist. There's a late turn. We never make it easy for ourselves, and to think, someone had said to me when the draw was made in December 2018 that coming into the home stretch with 2 games to go, if we win either of them, we qualify automatically. I'd snap your hand off.
Yeah, definitely. Especially you think back to last year with Northern Ireland and the actual games against Denmark, we just looked absolutely horrendous. But have you anything to add to that, Joe?
Yeah, I just think that, like you said, at international level, at club level, like you said, we've seen Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool play this expansive game of football, really setting the standards for what could be the next few years of the game. But we have to remember that they're working under some of the best coaches in the world, and they have pretty much unlimited time to develop the game. Man City didn't start playing the way that they are right now yesterday. Guardiola's been there for 3 years, I think now.
And first year wasn't that good.
Yeah, and even before he came, his influence was obvious in some of the signings that had been arranged before he formally took over. Klopp is at Liverpool for I think 3 years now as well, and again, they didn't start playing the type of football they're playing now the day he arrived. It took time to develop that. For him to understand what his players were capable of. Mick McCarthy and every international manager really doesn't have that kind of time. At best, they have a week to build up before a game. They have a week to prepare the players. So, sometimes it is an agricultural type of football. It is basic, but, basic moves win games. Headers from corners win games. Headers from free kicks win games. And, there's some statistic that, 2/3 of international goals come from those kind of situations. So I wouldn't be too hard on the management or the coaches or the players for playing that way. And remember that each of them are coming from their clubs, being coached to play a certain way, and then they have to come, and it's a complete context switch to play a different way for Ireland. There's obviously going to be some kind of blockage or miscommunication or something like that there. So I think we might actually play a bit better against Switzerland on Tuesday, if only because the team will have been together a little bit longer and will have worked together a little bit more, and hopefully will have learned something from the Georgia game.
And the old Irish philosophy of always seeming to play better against the better,
but the surface
the better
as well.
sides. Yeah.
Will definitely be better, and I do think that could have been a key area in which, like John Egan said after the game, pitches like playing on concrete, so it did look horrendous. But just to kind of wrap up, obviously Connolly came on the 78th minute and Alan Brown came on as well. Alan Brown didn't really do anything for me of note. But Connolly, for me, I read something on Twitter where I think it was Johnny Ward, put up a tweet saying, a Georgian said to him that the game was shit, but who was your substitute that came on? Obviously caught the eye of them for the 12 minutes he was on. I don't think he got his first chance till around the 80 something minute. The difference in a striker that actually comes alive in the box. Seeing the shot, he didn't think about it. He got the ball down, whoop, dropped the shoulder, boom, shot.
It's funny you spoke about the Premiership and everything like that, and it's brilliant for Connolly to be starting games, scoring 2 cracking goals against Spurs the week before we go into international week, and we have such a desire, all Irish fans have, for somebody who's going to score goals. Keane was a natural goal scorer and scored lots of goals. For me, at the start of this campaign, the fact that Connolly seems to be coming along and is progressing is brilliant. I've always said though that we need goals from a John Egan. A John Egan 1-0 header, in Georgia the other night.
Which could have been the case.
Which could have been the case. Callum Robinson maybe scoring one, Connolly getting one, Horan getting one, Coleman chipping in with one. We just need to spread the goals around, and we're maybe Mick, in fairness to him, he's looking at this young player coming through. He's given him his debut. I don't think Mick will be pressurised by fans into playing anyone or anything. Yeah. Will he go on Tuesday night and give him his full debut and say, I think this fella could go at him, or will his defensive mindset go? Connolly offers us maybe very little in the box, clearing wise, tackling wise, tracking back. Do we wait until the game's a bit more open? So I think Mick probably wants to maybe protect him as well a little bit. I did think though he could have gone on a little bit earlier.
At least 10 minutes earlier.
I think he could have gone on 10, 15 minutes earlier. But again, I go back to the point of Mick saying, well, I'd rather not lose 1-0 and get a draw. So there's something in that.
As much as we all want Connolly to succeed, and as much as we all want any Irish strikers to succeed, I think we have to remember he is still 19. He's played 12 minutes of international football. Robbie Keane took 3 games to score his first goal. Switzerland away, they're the top seeds in the group. They don't lose a lot at home. It's going to be tough. I don't think Connolly is going to start. I think he might get more game time than he did against Georgia. And look, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see him score, but if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. Yeah,
well, look, as I say, I'm not blaming him for the chance he missed at the end. The ball just wouldn't come down from watching it back. But between that and then Duffy, there wasn't just it was a real lack of just quality in the final third, and I think we just couldn't control the game, and that ultimately let us down from a scoring point of view.
I think it kind of says a lot about the fickle nature of international football as well. If Connolly's shot goes, a little bit to the right of the keeper in the back of the net, if Duffy's header goes either side, then McCarthy is a genius.
Yeah.
But it didn't, and suddenly there's this air of negativity around again. And I think it's kind of, he's possibly suffering because of the previous manager that we're not seeing a change in, or at least a massive change in style from the end of Martin O'Neill's reign, but we have to remember his brief is to qualify for the Euros next year. It's not to bring through a team of young players. It's not to change the playing style. It's not to experiment. And he did give 5 international debuts in his last game against Bulgaria. So he is experimenting, but maybe it's not the right kind, or it's not enough. So I think he's doing a good job. I think and as you said, the fact that we're not out of the running for the Euros is a positive. I mean, there are international sides that are struggling to qualify. Scotland are depending on the playoffs. Wales possibly will have to depend on the playoffs. Northern Ireland look like they're going to have to depend on the playoffs. We still have our destiny in our own hands. So it's not. Don't get me wrong, it's not great, and the performance was disappointing, but the result wasn't too disappointing.
I know from the historical point of view, and ultimately, if we qualify, all performances, everything goes out the window and it's forgotten about. the one thing I always say on Twitter that my go-to line is in 1987 we played Luxembourg at home. We were losing 1-0. We then drew 1-1 and in the 78th minute Paul McGrath scored a header. We won 2-1 against Luxembourg. We were 12 minutes away from dropping points against the mighty Luxembourg. Fast forward 6 months later, 8 months later, we're in Stuttgart and the whole thing goes off in a different orbit altogether. People will forget everything about Georgia on Tuesday night if we win 1-0. No one will talk about anything other than qualification. Of course, the flip side is if it comes back to haunt us, they'll say, well, you should have gotten somebody on. We didn't do anything. But that's the fine margins.
Yeah.
We never blitz through a group. We never storm through it. We don't win it easily. It's always going to be about fine margins for us. And I think Mick pragmatically knows that as well. And maybe that's reflected sometimes in his team ethos and how he goes about setting it out.
Yeah, I think that's we'll leave it at that then for the final word. It's all set up for 2 cup finals against Switzerland and Denmark. If we don't fail in one, we have another crack at the cherry. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, huge thanks to Joe and Eddie for coming on, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and like the video. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon.